Hi, and welcome to our first video in this series. Today we're going to be covering something pretty basic, but very important to developing your grammar skills. We're going to talk about types of words today. Now, these types of words exist, I believe, in every language, but today we're just going to be talking about how they work in English and what their job is in a sentence. The major types of words in English include nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs. Now you can probably think of an example of each of these types of words, but you may not necessarily know what it does in a sentence or where it goes in a sentence. That can be really confusing in English because word order is really important, whereas in some languages, word order is not so important. So if you're having a hard time with structuring your sentences, you might want to watch this video all the way through. All right, so like I said, there are 4 major types of words. There are other types of words, but we will cover that in another video. And they each have a different job. So we're going to start with nouns. So what is a noun? A noun is a word that describes a person, a place, or a thing. So what does that mean? As an example, let's think of a person. A person can be Barack Obama, for example, or my sister, for example, or a chef. A chef is a person, right? This little guy right here. Those are all examples of people. Nouns can also be places like Los Angeles or the mountains or a lake. And they can also be things. Okay, they can be cats. I'm going to talk about cats a lot in this video because I like them, and I think as you watch these videos, you'll figure out that I'm a big cat person. So I hope you like cats too. So things can be cats. They can be books. They can be pieces of paper, right? These are things. Nouns can also be ideas or concepts or feelings. So it's not necessarily something that you can see or touch all the time. A noun could be something like friendship or love or health. Those are all nouns. They're all ideas and they're all concepts, even though we can't physically touch or see those things. Okay? So the next thing you need to know is where does a noun go in a sentence? What's its job? Most of the time, you will see nouns at the very beginning of a sentence. So if you take this example sentence here, the chef is a person, so it's functioning as a noun in the sentence. The chef cooks pasta. The chef comes first. It's the first idea, and it tells us what the rest of the sentence is going to be about. However, nouns can also come after verbs as objects. Right now, I don't want you to worry too much about what does subject mean or what does object mean. If you don't know, I'm going to make another video covering those ideas. But for now, I just want you to know that, yeah, nouns can also come after verbs. So pasta here is a noun, cooks pasta. And this would be a thing, right? It's a thing, so therefore it is a noun. And then lastly, you can have a noun after the verb to be. What is the verb to be? That's is, are, was, were, in any tense, to kind of rename the subject. So that the subject of this sentence is the man. He is a chef. We're kind of renaming him after the verb to be. We're telling you what he is. Okay. So in other words, you could take this is out and make it an equal sign, and it would be the same. He is a chef. I'm not going to cover this too much because this is not a major class of words. It's a minor class of words. But since we're talking about nouns, I might as well talk about pronouns. And pronouns are basically substitutes for a noun. So instead of saying a noun over and over and over and over again in the sentence, we can kind of use these smaller words to sound less repetitive. For example, the chef cooks pasta. If I want to talk about the chef again, and I'm talking to you, I don't need to keep saying the chef, the chef, the chef, the chef. Probably somebody would get really annoyed if you kept saying the full noun over and over again. So you can simply replace the chef with he, and it refers to the chef, right? You could do the same thing here. The chef cooks pasta. Maybe I don't want to talk about pasta again. Maybe I'm tired of saying the word pasta. So I'll just say it, right? The chef cooks it. After that, I can completely replace those two words, right? He cooks it. I don't even have to say the chef. I don't even have to say pasta. I can say he cooks it and replace both those words with pronouns. So pronouns are words that refer to nouns, okay? Again, you don't have to worry too much about pronouns right now. They're not crucial to this lesson, but I just thought that we would talk about them while we're here, okay? All right, so the next type of word is adjectives. And adjectives are actually my personal favorite type of word. You know, it's kind of weird to have a favorite type of word, but adjectives are pretty cool because they describe things, and they definitely make things more interesting to read because you can imagine something better. It provides more information about a noun. So if we take this really, really cute picture of my cat, okay, how can we describe my cat in this picture? Can you think of any words? I hope one of the words that you thought of was cute, because he is cute. He's very cute. So he's cute. He's what? He's brown. He's also a little black and beige too, but he's mostly brown, I would say. And he's fluffy. He has a lot of fur. He's fluffy. So all of those words, right? Cute, brown, fluffy, those are adjectives. They describe a noun. They describe a cat, my cat. Like I said, just to repeat, adjectives, their job is to describe nouns. Okay, so this little woman who represents an adjective, she's an artist. She has a little French beret on because I think all artists definitely wear berets. So she's saying, wow, what a handsome chef. So she's describing the chef, who is a noun, because he was a noun before, so he's going to stay a noun throughout this video. Okay? Where do they go in a sentence? So you can play with adjectives a little bit, but in general, they have a very specific place in a sentence, and that is they usually come right before the noun that they are describing. So, for example, a handsome chef. The word handsome is an adjective and it comes right before the chef that it describes. Or a fluffy cat, okay? So thinking about my picture of my very, very, very handsome cat, fluffy comes before cat. Then another example would be the busy street. So busy comes before street, okay? In some languages, it doesn't work like that. You can kind of put the adjective after the noun. Sometimes it can go in a completely different place, but most of the time in English, it will come just before the noun that it's describing. Or it could come after a noun or a pronoun, which is what? Do you remember what a pronoun is? Yes, words like he, she, and it, okay? They can come after a noun or pronoun and the verb to be. So he is handsome, or the cat is fluffy, or the street is busy, okay? All right, moving along. Next we have verbs, okay? What is a verb? Most of the time, teachers will tell you that verbs express an action. They are the action in a sentence. This is partially true. It's half true. There are action verbs, or verbs that describe actions like jump or hit or kick or punch. But verbs can also describe things like existence, mental conditions or states, or ownership. So what the heck do I mean by that? Existence would be, but to be or to seem is an existence verb. It's not describing an action, but it's saying what something is or is not. Mental conditions or states. So things like to love or to hate or to fear. These are not actions per se, but they're conditions or they're states of your mind. So they're also verbs in this case. And then lastly, ownership can be something like the verb to have. The have doesn't really describe an action, but it's still a verb. All right. So where do verbs go in a sentence? In most cases, verbs go right after the subject that is doing the action or being described or having the feeling. So, for example, the chef cooks, okay? Cooks comes right after the thing that is doing the cooking. The chef is the actor, he's doing the action, so cooks follows immediately after. Or Mary sings. Or, for example, grammar is annoying, but I know none of you think that. It's just not true, right? Grammar is really fun, and we have a great time studying it. Okay. I want you to remember, because verbs are where things really start to get complicated. Because in English, we can have helping verbs, or they're also called auxiliary verbs, but I really don't like that term, mostly because auxiliary is really difficult to say. So I think helping verbs is just, it's easier and more simple. So we have helping verbs and we have main verbs. And what is the difference? So main verbs are verbs that make sense by themselves. They don't need any help from another verb to have meaning. So for example, you can say, the man drove to the store. What is the verb in that sentence? The man drove to the store. Drove. Drove is the verb in that sentence. It is the past tense of drive. So in this case, we don't need a helper. We have the verb there. It's the main verb, is to drive, right? It makes sense completely by itself. On the other hand, helping verbs They don't make sense by themselves. They are there to help another verb, usually to change the tense or to make the sentence negative instead of affirmative. And they don't really have too much meaning on their own. They need another verb in order to survive. So you can say, for example, the man can drive to the store. So in this sentence, drive is the main verb because drive makes sense by itself. The helping verb is can. Can doesn't really have a lot of meaning by itself because if you say he can, my first reaction is, okay, he can what? What can he do? I need more information from you. You can't just leave the sentence at can. So in this case, can is a helping verb. Helping verbs are usually words, they can be the verb to be, right? They can be both main verbs and they can be helping verbs like to be, do, did. That could be the verb to do, or it could also be a helping verb in a negative construction. So you could say, Mary sings, right? And if you wanted to make that negative, what do you have to say? Mary does not sing. Okay, so in this construction doesn't refer to the verb to do. It's actually just helping sing become negative. And this can be really confusing for a lot of students because it takes some time to remember putting the auxiliary verb there is difficult sometimes, and then knowing which one to use can also be a struggle, but it just takes practice, and you will see little by little over time it will get easier, and you'll start to notice when something sounds right or when something doesn't sound right. The other thing with verbs that you have to remember, and it gets more complicated, is that yes, they change. They're more variable in a sentence, we could say, because you can have a different tense, which changes the verb. You can make a verb negative or positive, which changes the structure of the verb sometimes. And also, when you conjugate a verb, which means you make it agree with the subject, which can make it a little bit more confusing because sometimes you put an S, for example, after a verb in a sentence, and sometimes you don't. It just depends on who or what you're talking about, if your subject is singular or plural. Right. Okay. Then we have probably the most complicated of them all, adjectives. Damn it. Adverbs. Not adjectives, adverbs. And what are adverbs? The only thing left for adverbs to do is to describe verbs. They give us more information about verbs. So, for example, he works carefully. Okay, so carefully here is an adverb. And what is it describing in the sentence? It's not describing he, it's describing the verb works. He works. How does he work? He works carefully. So, a lot of grammar books will also tell you that adverbs usually end with ly. You can recognize them because they end with this ly ending, but that isn't always true. So you have to be careful because there are many exceptions to this in English, and it can get confusing sometimes because there are also some adjectives that end in ly, and they can't be used in a sentence the same way because they have different jobs, right? Adjectives describe nouns and adverbs describe verbs, so they are not, you can't replace them. There are also different types of adverbs, okay? So adverbs can describe when something is done. So for example, now is an adverb, or before, or soon is an adverb. Adverbs can describe where something is done. Here, for example, is an adverb, or there, or everywhere, or somewhere. How something is done, right? So carefully would be an example of that, or quickly, or politely, or angrily. These are all how something is done. So that describes verbs as well. They can describe how often something is done. So frequently, never, once in a while, for example. They can describe to what degree something is done. So words like very, enough, completely are adverbs. And lastly, they can sometimes describe the attitude of the speaker or the writer. So what does that mean? If I say to you, unfortunately, I have work tomorrow. Am I happy about going to work tomorrow if I say, unfortunately, I have work tomorrow? No, I'm not happy about it. And you can tell because I used the adverb unfortunately. So I'm showing you my attitude towards this topic by using this adverb. And there are many other adverbs that can do this. They're not always negative. You can have some positive ones like fortunately, but they let you know how someone feels about the topic. The hardest part about adverbs is that the rules for where they go in a sentence are very complex, and they change whether you're talking about adverbs that can describe when something is done, or for example, adverbs that describe how something is done. Each of these groups, they follow different rules. So sometimes they can go at the beginning of a sentence, and sometimes they can go right after a verb, and sometimes they can go at the end of the sentence. So this is not a topic that I want to talk about right now. I want to make a completely different video talking about adverbs because it's a lot. So for now, just know that the rules with adverbs are pretty flexible. They might not always be where you think they're going to be in a sentence. And just have patience, because this is one of the things that's probably the most difficult thing to learn in English, are the placements of adverbs. All right, so let's practice. Okay, so here's the sentence. The old woman walked slowly up the hill. The old woman walked slowly up the hill. I want you to pause the video and find the nouns, the adjectives, the verbs, and the adverbs in this sentence. Okay, ready? So what did you find for nouns in this sentence? Where are the nouns? Good, okay. Woman is one of them. Woman is one of the nouns in this sentence. What is, well, I shouldn't say what is. Is there another noun in this sentence? Yes, there is. It's the hill. The hill is a place, so it is a noun. Those are the two nouns. Those are the two nouns in this sentence. And don't worry about these words, the and a and are always attached to a noun. There are a minor group of words, so we're not going to touch them right now, but they are normally attached. No, not normally, always. They are always attached to a noun. Okay, what about the adjectives in this sentence? Where are the adjectives? Yeah, old. Old is an adjective here, and that is the only adjective in this sentence. Maybe some of you had guessed slowly, but slowly is not. It is not an adjective in the sentence. Do you know what it is? It's an adverb, right? Because it's describing the verb in the sentence, which is walk, okay? Or walked in this case because it's past tense. All right, so we have 2 nouns, woman, hill. 1 adjective, old. 1 verb, walk. And 1 adverb, which is slowly. Okay, great. Let's try one more. All right. She's eating a juicy mango from Mexico now. She's eating a juicy mango from Mexico now. So pause the video and find the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and the adverbs. Ready? All right. So where are the nouns in this sentence? She's eating a juicy mango from Mexico now. Maybe some of you guessed mango first, and that's correct. Mango is a noun in this sentence, but there are 2 more nouns. There are 2 more nouns. Where are they? Good. She. She is a noun. It's a pronoun, but it's a type of noun, so it still counts. She. And what's the last noun? A noun is a person, a place, or a thing, so that means Mexico is also a noun. So there are 3 nouns in this sentence. What about adjectives? Are there any adjectives in this sentence? Juicy. A juicy mango. Making me kind of hungry, actually. Okay, and the next one would be verbs. Are there any verbs in the sentence? There are 2 verbs in the sentence. There is a helping verb and there is a main verb. What is the helping verb in this sentence? It's is. Very good, because she's is a contraction of she and is. It's mixing those 2 together. So is in there, is eating. In this case, is doesn't make sense by itself. It needs a little bit of help. So we have to add a main verb, which is eating. Okay, then it makes sense. Are there any adverbs in this sentence? Yes, good. Now is an adverb. It describes when the verb is being done, okay? So this is one of those tricky ones, right? I told you about adverb placement. In this case, you can put now at the end of the sentence. Sometimes you can put it at the beginning of the sentence. Some people put it after the verb. It just depends. Some of these adverbs are flexible and some of them are not. So like I said, we're going to do that in a completely different video because it's just not for today. Okay. All right. Very good job today. What did we cover? Or what did we learn? Do you remember what we learned today? I hope so. Today we learned the 4 major classes of words and what they do in a sentence. So we learned about nouns, which are a person, a place, or a thing. Very good. We learned about adjectives. And what are adjectives? They're describing words. Very good. What are verbs? They are actions in a sentence, and they also can describe things like existence or possession or mental feelings, right? Like is, like, or have. And lastly, we have adverbs. And what are adverbs? Great. They describe verbs. Great work. today. If you want some extra practice with this, I'm going to include a worksheet in the chapter notes, so you can check that out if you're feeling like you just want to explore this a little bit more, or you need a little bit extra help. So thank you for joining me for this first lesson. It was fun to film. Also, not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous because it is my first video. But I think it will get easier from here. So I will see you next time. Thanks.